You are dragging a heavy load across the dirt. Your muscles burn and your breath is completely gone. You drop the weight and stare at the ground in sheer exhaustion. For thousands of years, this was the only way to move the world. How much of your life is spent just trying to move things from one place to another? You look at the fallen tree you need for shelter. You look at the heavy stone you need for the hearth. You must drag them entirely by yourself. Friction is your constant enemy. The earth grips everything you try to pull with invisible hands. The ground steals your energy with every single step you take. Why does the ground refuse to let go of the things you need? You observe the world around you. You see that animals do not build massive structures. Animals only move what they can carry in their mouths. You are different because you want to build. You want to create walls and monuments and permanent homes. This ambition requires moving massive weights. You invent the sledge to make this possible. You place the heavy stone on a flat piece of carved wood. You pull the wood across the soil. It is slightly easier than dragging the stone itself. You pour water on the mud to make the ground slick. The sledge glides for a brief moment. Then it stops abruptly in the dry dirt. You need more water and you need more muscle. You need more people to help you pull the ropes. What happens when there is no water and no one left to help you? You search for a better way to defeat friction. You cut down trees and strip the branches. You put these rolling logs under the wooden sledge. The sledge moves forward smoothly on the round wood. The logs roll out from behind the sledge as it moves. You have to stop pulling. You pick up the back log and carry it to the front of the sledge. You place it under the wood again. You pull the sledge forward. The sledge moves another few feet. You carry the log again. It is utterly exhausting. You are moving the heavy rollers almost as much as you are moving the stone. How long can your human body sustain this endless cycle of lifting and pulling? A monumental breakthrough happens not on the dirt road but inside a small room. You are not trying to move a massive stone. You are just trying to make a simple clay bowl. You take wet mud in your hands. You pinch it and coil it upward. The shape of the bowl is uneven and lopsided. You place the wet clay on a flat wooden board. You spin the board continuously with your hand. The clay turns smoothly in a circle. You shape the clay perfectly as it spins. This is the potter wheel. It changes absolutely nothing about moving heavy stones across the land. It changes everything about making bowls for food. Why did it take humanity so long to simply turn the potter wheel on its side? The potter wheel appears in ancient Mesopotamia around 3,500 years before the Common Era. You are standing in the bustling ancient city of Uruk. You see skilled artisans spinning clay perfectly in their workshops. They are not thinking about transportation or conquering the horizon. They are thinking about mass production of plates and cups. The wooden wheel is flat on the ground. The vertical axis holds it firmly in place. It spins freely and continuously. You watch the wet clay rise into perfect symmetry under their wet fingers. Could this spinning horizontal disc be used for something far more significant? Someone finally turns the wooden disc upright. Someone places two solid round discs on either side of a heavy sledge. The wheels themselves are not the actual problem. The problem is the axle that connects them. An axle is the straight rod that connects the two round wheels together. You carve a straight wooden axle from a strong tree. You attach the heavy wheels tightly to the ends of the axle. The axle goes completely under the heavy sledge. The axle spins along with the rolling wheels. The sledge above is incredibly heavy. The spinning axle grinds violently against the bottom of the wooden sledge. Friction returns with a vengeance. The wood burns and splinters under the massive weight. How do you stop the spinning axle from completely destroying the cart? You realize you must change the fundamental design. You fix the wooden axle permanently to the bottom of the sledge. The axle does not move or spin at all. You make a precise round hole in the exact center of the wheel. The wheel now spins freely on the stationary axle. This requires perfect and meticulous carving. The hole must be exactly round. The axle must be exactly smooth. If the central hole is too tight, the wheel will stubbornly refuse to spin. If the central hole is too loose, the wheel will wobble violently and break apart. You must fully understand physics thousands of years before physics even has a specific name. Have you ever tried to carve a mathematically perfect circle using only a stone tool? You must use sharp copper chisels. You use rough sand to polish the hardwood. You attach the heavy carved wheel to the stationary wooden axle. You use a small wooden pin to keep the wheel from sliding off the end. You put the heavy stone on the newly built cart. You push the cart forward with your hands. The wheels turn smoothly. The wooden axle stays completely still. The cart moves forward with miraculous ease. Friction has finally been defeated by human ingenuity. You have conquered the gripping power of the earth. The ground no longer grips your heavy load with invisible hands. What will you possibly do with all this saved time and energy? You do not use the cart to make your daily life easier. You use the cart to move far more things than before. You build massive stone walls. You build towering temples to ancient gods. You build sprawling monuments to human kings. You pack the wooden cart with heavy grain. You pull it with domesticated oxen. You pull it for endless miles across the plains. You pull it to the next distant village to trade. The cart makes your physical work incredibly efficient. Efficiency does not ever mean less work for you. Efficiency simply means doing much more work in the exact same amount of time. Why does every great human invention seem to demand even more of your precious time? Archaeologists dig deeply into the earth to find the hidden truth about your ancestors. You look closely at the dedicated work of Janusz Kruk and Sarunas Milisauskas. They are excavating an ancient Neolithic site in modern-day Poland. They find a broken ceramic vessel in the dirt. It is formerly called the Bronisus pot. It dates back to around 3,400 years before the Common Era. There are faint lines carved on the side of the fragile pot. The lines form a distinct square with 4 circles attached. A straight line connects the front circles. A straight line connects the back circles. A long line connects the front and back. It is a clear drawing of a 4-wheeled wagon. It is the absolute oldest known picture of a wheeled vehicle in the entirety of the world. You suddenly realize the wheel did not just stay quietly in Mesopotamia. The brilliant invention spreads rapidly across the ancient world. You travel far away to the murky swamps of Slovenia. You watch the careful excavation work of Anton Velusek. He is digging meticulously in the wet Ljubljana marshes. He finds a solid piece of carved ash wood buried incredibly deep in the dark mud. The oxygen-free mud preserves the ancient wood perfectly for millennia. He pulls it carefully out of the swamp. It is a massive solid wooden wheel. It has a precise square hole carved in the middle for a rotating axle. It dates back to roughly 3,150 years before the Common Era. It is the oldest physical wooden wheel ever discovered by humanity. You look at the dark ancient wood. You feel the immense weight of human engineering history. How did the complex wheel travel from ancient Mesopotamia to Poland and Slovenia so incredibly quickly? Stuart Piggott spends his entire life trying to answer this exact question. He is an archaeologist who tracks the rapid spread of early wheeled vehicles. He shows clearly that the wheel exploded across the vast expanse of Eurasia. It did not take many thousands of years to spread. It took just a few short centuries to cross continents. The design was simply too valuable and powerful to ignore. When one ancient tribe saw another tribe using a rolling cart, they instantly copied it. They stole the brilliant idea. They adapted the brilliant idea for their own survival. You are participating in a massive prehistoric exchange of advanced technology. You are connected silently to people you have never even met. Does a good idea actually belong to the person who thought of it or the person who uses it? You watch the spinning wheel violently change the natural landscape. You see long roads being cleared through the wilderness. A wheeled cart cannot travel easily through a dense dark forest. A wheeled cart cannot travel safely over jagged mountain rocks. You must chop down the ancient trees. You must smash the blocking rocks into dust. You are no longer adapting yourself to the natural environment. You are violently forcing the natural environment to adapt to your rolling wheels. You spend endless days moving earth just so your heavy cart can move forward smoothly. You are working much harder than you did when you simply carried things on your back. Is the spinning wheel actually serving you, or are you serving the spinning wheel? The wheel requires another massive change in your ancient life. A human cannot easily pull a heavy cart filled with stones. You need powerful draft animals to do the pulling. You must domesticate wild oxen and wild horses. You must capture them and break their wild spirits. You must breed them specifically for raw muscle and absolute obedience. You spend your days feeding and caring for massive animals. Your entire schedule is completely dictated by the endless needs of your draft animals. The wheel is useless without the muscle of the beast. You have bound yourself tightly to the survival of the ox. What happens when the ox gets sick and the wheel stops turning? The wheel inevitably brings a terrifying new kind of power. You watch ambitious leaders build the first chariots. They attach two incredibly light-spoked wheels to a very small wooden platform. They hitch fast horses directly to the front. A man stands balanced on the platform holding a deadly bow. You see the chariot charge violently across the dusty battlefield. It is incredibly fast. It is absolutely deadly. The wheel is no longer just moving heavy building stones. The wheel is now moving entire armies of destruction. You are standing in the choking dust as the war chariots roll violently by. You see that all technology is completely neutral. It does not care if it is building a temple or destroying a peaceful city. Who actually decides how an invention is ultimately used? The wheel rapidly becomes a terrifying weapon of imperial conquest. You are a simple farmer living in a quiet, peaceful village. You hear the low rumble of wooden wheels on the packed dirt road. You see the thick dust rising ominously in the distance. The war chariots finally arrive at your home. They bring armed soldiers. They bring demanding tax collectors. They bring distant foreign rulers. The wheel allowed the distant empire to expand its borders rapidly. The empire now uses the spinning wheel to control you entirely. The very invention that was supposed to free your physical labor has bound you to a massive political system. Why do the brilliant tools of human liberation so often become the dark tools of human control? You must look at your modern world today. You see spinning wheels everywhere you turn your head. You see heavy cars rushing on massive concrete highways. You see hidden gears turning inside every machine. You see massive airplanes landing heavily on thick rubber tires. Your entire modern civilization is completely built on the concept of the spinning disc. You rely completely on the wheel to bring your daily food. You rely completely on the wheel to take you to your daily work. You are completely dependent on a simple invention created over 5,000 years ago. What would actually happen to you if every single wheel suddenly stopped turning today? Your modern world would collapse completely in a single day. The bright grocery stores would empty out immediately. The massive factories would freeze in absolute silence. The sprawling cities would starve in a matter of weeks. You are completely trapped by the endless convenience of the wheel. You absolutely cannot survive without it anymore. You spend your entire life paying for cars and trains and planes. You work endlessly just to keep the wheels of your own life turning smoothly. The wheel did not actually free you from exhausting labor. The wheel just fundamentally changed the nature of your exhaustion. You are still dragging a massive heavy load across the dirt in a different way. You wake up when your body is naturally ready. No blaring alarm and no rigid schedule. For 99% of human history, this was not just a hypothetical dream. For about 300,000 years, you walked gracefully everywhere you needed to go. You carried only what you could easily hold in your own two arms. You were incredibly light. You were incredibly free. Then you finally invented the spinning wheel. The wheel allowed you to carry much more than before. Because you could suddenly carry more, you immediately wanted more. Because you constantly wanted more, you constantly worked more. Does having more heavy things actually make you more free? You can finally see the hidden trap. The invention of the wheel was not a triumph of human laziness. It was a massive triumph of endless human ambition. Ambition always demands continuous fuel. The required fuel is your limited time and your precious energy. The wheel rapidly accelerated the pace of human progress. Progress rapidly accelerated the stressful pace of your entire life. You are spinning faster and faster every single day. You are just a tiny gear inside a massive, relentless machine. You cannot ever stop the machine because you are trapped inside of it. When will the endless spinning finally end? You walk outside your modern home. You see a metal car drive by rapidly. You hear the rubber tires humming on the hard asphalt. You think deeply about the wet mud in ancient Uruk. You think deeply about the faint lines carved on the bronzes pot. You think deeply about the dark wooden disc buried in the Ljubljana marshes. You realize that you are still deeply connected to those brilliant ancient people. You share their relentless desire to completely move the world. You share their endless daily struggle with friction. You share their incredibly complicated relationship with new technology. You are the direct heir to their brilliant genius and their terrible mistakes. Do you actually control the modern tools you use, or do they completely control you? The sun slowly goes down. The artificial streetlights turn on immediately. The massive city hums loudly with the sound of millions of wheels turning at once. You feel the crushing weight of human history pressing down firmly on your shoulders. You realize the ultimate truth about human invention. We do not ever invent things to make our lives truly easier. We invent things to make our lives infinitely more complex. Every single solution creates a brand new problem. Every single tool creates a brand new obligation. The wheel is a mathematically perfect circle. A perfect circle has absolutely no beginning and absolutely no end. You are caught permanently in the endless rotating loop. You close your tired eyes. You vividly imagine the dusty dirt road. You feel the rough texture of the heavy stone. You feel the stubborn friction of the ancient earth. You remember what it was like long before the spinning ever began. You remember the absolute silence of a primitive world without wheels. You remember the beautiful simplicity of a world where you only moved what you could personally carry. For thousands of years, this was the only way to move the world, dragging a heavy load across the dirt.